Hello, everyone, and welcome to this exciting journey into the world of leadership. My name is Rezon Medrano, and I am a third year college student from Cebu Technological University, Naga Extension Campus. And today, I am thrilled to dive deep into a leadership philosophy where it's all about service, compassion, and personal growth. As you may have guessed, the purpose of this video isn't just actually about sharing of knowledge. It is also about enhancing my own understanding of leadership principles and honing my communication skills. It is a two-way street where we will be exploring together the full concept of servant leadership. So, what is a servant leadership, you may ask? Servant leadership is a kind or style of leadership that actually flips the script of conventional leadership. So aside from servant leadership, there's actually more kinds or styles of leadership. And the one that I just mentioned to you, which is the conventional leadership, is actually one of those styles. So going back to the servant leadership or servant leaders, instead of standing at the top of the pyramid, they are right there at the foundation serving and supporting their team members. Servant leadership is all about nurturing the potential of others, and that's what we are here to discuss. So throughout this presentation, we will delve into the core principles of servant leadership, its impact on organization, and why it matters in today's world. And lastly, I will be giving you guys a brief background of a person who used to be considered as a servant leader in the Philippines. But more than that, we will be on a shared journey of discovery as I too seek to better understand and communicate the essence of servant leadership. So whether you are an aspiring leader, a current one, or someone who is interested in the world of leadership, then this video has something for you. So let's learn and grow together as we explore the transformative power of servant leadership. Let's start this journey. Hello everyone and welcome back. So this time I will be discussing to you first the principles of servant leadership. So for the principles of servant leadership, we have a total of 9 principles for the servant of leadership. First is we have the service first principle, the empathy principle, the listening, the healing, the awareness, the persuasion, the conceptualization, the stewardship, and lastly is the commitment to growth principle. So those are the 9 principles that I am about to share to you guys. And going back to the first principle, which is the service first principle. So service first principle is actually the primary principle of servant leadership. Service first principle is all about the commitment to serve the others. So the leader's focus or the team leader's focus is on meeting the needs and supporting the growth of their team members. And moving to the next principle, which is the empathy principle. For empathy principle, servant leaders have a deep understanding of their team members' perspective and feelings. So servant leaders or team leaders shows a genuine care and compassion for others. And that's for the empathy principle. Next is we have the listening principle. So servant leaders actively listen to their team members, seeking inputs, ideas, and concerns. Team leaders or servant leaders values and considers the viewpoints of their team members or to those they led. Next is we have the healing principle. My back hurts. Sorry. For the healing principle, we have here servant leaders address conflicts and support the personal and professional development of their team members. So team leaders or servant leaders creates an environment where healing and personal growth is being encouraged. And that is for the healing principle. Next is we have the awareness principle. For the awareness principle, servant leaders are highly attuned to the well-being and dynamics within their team. They pay attention to the individual and collective needs of their followers. Next is we have the persuasion. For the persuasion, instead of relying authority or coercion, servant leaders use persuasion and inspiration to encourage their team to make or to achieve goals or to make a big contribution to their organization. And that is for the persuasion principle. Next is we have the conceptualization principle. So servant leaders have a long-term vision and a deep understanding of the organization's mission and values. They communicate this vision to their team to inspire and guide them. Next is we have the 8th principle, which is the stewardship principle. Stewardship principle, servant leaders see themselves as stewards as the organization's resources and mission. So they work to ensure this. So they work to ensure these are preserved and developed or advanced. Next is we have the commitment to growth. The last principle. For the commitment to growth principle, servant leaders are committed to the personal and professional growth of their team members. They encourage and support them in reaching their full potential. And that is all for the principles of the servant leadership. And now, moving on to the impacts of servant leadership on an organization, I have prepared here 8 impacts of servant leadership in an organization. So for the first impact, we have... Oh, my back hurts. I'm very sorry. So, continue. For the first impact, we have the increased employee satisfaction. So for the increased employee satisfaction, servant leadership fosters a supportive and a caring environment, leading to a higher level employee satisfaction and happiness. Next is we have the improved motivation. So team members are more motivated when they feel their leader genuinely cares about their well-being and development. I mean, it's since your boss, or no, not boss, but your team leader shows genuine care or kindness to you, then it is your job to reciprocate that kindness. Next is we have the enhanced employee engagement. For the enhanced employee engagement, servant leaders engage their team members by involving them in decision-making process, which results in a more committed and engaged workforce. And this one here will be also benefit for the organization itself, since they are training their their members or the group of people that they led. So engaging them into these kinds of situations or decision-making process can lead to the development of their organization. Next is we have the positive organizational culture. For the positive organizational culture, this leadership styles more promotes a culture of trust, collaboration, and open communication, which can have a lasting positive impact on the organization's overall culture. Next is we have the conflict resolution. So servant leaders address conflicts and facilitates healing, which leads to a more harmonious work environment and a stronger team cohesion. Next is we have the innovation and creativity. For the innovation and creativity, by encouraging intellectual stimulation and individualized consideration, servant leadership promotes innovations and creative thinking within the organization. And this is something that will also help the organization itself. Next is we have the long-term success. For the long-term success, leaders who practice servant leadership focus on the long-term success of both their team members and the organization, contributing to sustained growth and prosperity. So for the last impact, we have here the employee development. For the employee development, servant leaders prioritize the growth and the development of their team members, helping them reach to their full potential, which in turn benefits the organization. Of course, the number one contributors, or I say the strength, yeah, the main strength of an organization is, of course, its employees, and it is the leader's job to help them, to support them to reach their full potential in order for the organization to be developed or more developed. And that is all for the the impact of servant leadership on an organization and for the principles of servant leadership. So this time, guys, I will be sharing to you a brief background of a person who is considered to be a servant leader in the Philippines. So in the Philippines, a notable example of a leader often cited as a servant leader is Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. Ninoy Aquino was a prominent Filipino politician, senator, and opposition leader during the authoritarian rule of President Ferdinand Marcos. His life and leadership exemplified servant leadership principles in various ways. For the first principle, which is the service first principle, Ninoy Aquino was dedicated to serving the Filipino people. He was an outspoken critic of the Marcos regime and its abuses of power, advocating for the rights and welfare of the Filipino citizens. Next is we have the empathy principle. So in the empathy principle, Ninoy Aquino demonstrated deep empathy for the suffering of Filipinos under the martial law. He consistently spoke out against human rights violations and political repressions. For the next principle, which is the listening principle, Ninoy Aquino actively listened to the concerns and struggles of ordinary Filipinos, especially to those who were marginalized and oppressed under the Marcos government. Next is we have the healing principle. In the healing principle, he played a crucial role in uniting various opposition groups and factions, working toward national healing and reconciliation in the face of political division and repression. For the fifth principle, which is the awareness, Ninoy was highly aware of the political and social issues facing the country, and he understood the need for change and restoration of democracy in the Philippines. And for the next principle, which is the persuasion principle, he used his platform and charisma to persuade Filipinos to stand up against authoritarian rule, advocating for non-violent means to bring about political change. And lastly is we have the stewardship principle. Ninoy saw himself as a steward of the democratic values and aspirations of the Filipino people. He was dedicated to restoring the democracy in the country. So Ninoy Aquino's servant leadership style and his ultimate sacrifice when he returned to the Philippines from exile and was assassinated at the Manila International Airport in 1983 had a profound impact on the nation. His death was a catalyst for the People Power Revolution in 1986, which led to the ousting of the Ferdinand Marcos and the restoration of democracy in the Philippines. So Ninoy Aquino's legacy as a servant leader is celebrated in the Philippines, and he is considered to be one of the national hero for his unwavering commitment to the service and well-being of the Filipino people and his role in the country's fight for democracy. And that is all for the story of Ninoy Aquino Jr. So, as we come to an end of our exploration into servant leadership, I'd like to express my gratitude for joining me on this enlightening journey. I hope you found our discussion as inspiring and enriching as I did. Servant leadership, as we have seen, is not just a leadership style. It's a philosophy that places service, empathy, and the growth of individuals at the heart of leadership. It is a reminder that true leaders don't stand above their teams but beside them, working together to achieve extraordinary results. Thank you for being part of this discussion. I encourage you to continue exploring the world of leadership as there's always more to learn and new ways to grow. So if you found this presentation valuable, please like and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content on leadership and personal development. Thank you.